Hey everyone, it's me, Julian Greystoke. Let's talk about death. I was actually filming a different video the other day when I came to the realization that I world build a lot using death. Now I should mention that I am not the best world builder in the world. Characters are really where it's at for me when it comes to what I focus on in my story writing, and sometimes I struggle with world building. However, this part of world building is something that I love writing about and that fascinates me. Now, while many people may start their world building with, say, their creation story, I tend to begin my world building with death mythology and death ritual. Death ritual is how your characters react to death. Do they bury their dead? Do they burn them? Do they bury them with certain objects from their life, or do they just leave them on the battlefield to rot? Do they mourn their dead, or do they celebrate the life that they had had? And of course, keeping in mind that different cultures within your world have different reactions and different death rituals. But what about death beliefs? This really fascinates me, and I love starting from this point. This is a really great way also to build a religion in your world building, because death and the afterlife are often closely tied to religion. Basically what I'm talking about now is what your characters and their culture believe happens to people after they die. Do they believe that the person is merely gone, or do they think that the person has a soul? Does that soul get to go be with their gods, or does it remain to haunt the earth? Is that soul reincarnated? There's all kinds of options for what people can believe happens to their friends and family after they die. And often these beliefs affect the death rituals. Like if your characters believe in reincarnation, they might be less likely to do intricate things with the body left behind because that person will be coming back later in a new body. However, if your characters believe that the dead person goes on to another life, they may believe also that that person can take wealth or riches with them. So they may have elaborate death rituals involving leaving the person with their belongings from their life. A lot of times I love to start with the death beliefs, where people believe that their souls go after they die. And I love when I'm working with a fantasy world, especially where I have multiple cultures with different beliefs about death. And knowing what happens to souls after they die can also help you decide what gods your people believe in. For example, in one of my stories, Boots, which is a fantasy that is querying as of filming this, I didn't start with the death gods, but I very nearly. I started with the trickster god, and I knew that this culture would believe in animal gods. I also knew that wolves are often associated with death and moving on to the next life. And I was intrigued by the idea of having multiple death gods. And so the wolf gods of death came about. So what happens in at least one of the cultures in Boots is that after you die, the multiple wolf gods, up to 3 or 4 may even come for you, come to collect you and lead you on to the afterlife. Now there are technically 2 religions in Boots. The other one is closer to a traditional sort of Christian religion, although it has 2 gods, a god and a goddess. And their death beliefs are far more similar to like the Christian beliefs, where when you die you go to heaven to be with your god and goddess. In another book that I've written recently, which I believe will be going through the beta process when this video goes up, I have 2 cultures again with very different views on death. The Vern people celebrate death, and they believe that after you are gone, you go into what is called the Great Hunt or the Great Ride, where you ride with your ancestors and your family and friends who have gone before you. The Great Ride itself remains very close to the earth and the people. So it is believed that your ancestors and your loved ones are never far from you. They are always riding near you. They do have some death rituals as well, such as if you die on the battlefield, your weapon and other things that are special to you are placed in your hands. When one character dies in the story, our lead character places his weapon and a piece of the rein from his horse in his hands because he loved horseback riding. The Vern also don't do much with the corpses. They will bury the corpses if they are a danger to the tribe, such as they will bring disease. However, it is also just as acceptable in their culture to leave the dead where they fell, to be picked over by scavengers and eventually just kind of go back to the earth. The other belief system is a more traditional pantheon of gods, with a god for just about everything. You know, the harvest, for love, for just about everything, including a fairly standard death kind of situation. These people have what we're more familiar with. They bury their dead and they mourn their dead. They don't put anything special with their dead, such as special items or trinkets, and they believe that their dead move farther away and that they will never have contact with those dead again until they themselves die. So those are a couple of death beliefs in my own stories. I hope they sound interesting to you, and maybe it will inspire working on death beliefs yourself. I really do think that knowing how a culture deals with death and what their beliefs about death are can strongly help you build that culture, and especially their religion. Because then it can get really fun, and death gods can actually be people that can like talk to your characters potentially, and it can get wild.
Humans need fantasy to be human. To be the place where the falling angel meets the rising ape.
So what do you guys think? Do you like writing about death? Why do you think it's so fascinating? I just find it fascinating how cultures deal with death.
How we deal with death is at least as important as how we deal with life, wouldn't you say?
Because I have had animals all my life, death is something that I've had to deal with a lot and learn to process and understand in my own ways. And I think that's really helped me personally become comfortable with the idea of death and really like exploring it as a concept. If you liked this video, there are more on my channel. It is chock full of content for you to check out. Most of it's not quite this morbid. Some of it maybe is. It's all arranged in nice playlists for you so you can go binge to your heart's content. If that's not enough for you, if you want even more and you want to support me, you can find me over on Patreon, where you can get access to exclusive videos not seen here on the regular channel. I post new videos Mondays and Fridays, often about writing and bookish things. All the links to my social media are in the doobly-doo. Come talk to me about death. And I will see you again next time with whatever it is I happen to be doing next time. Bye. Well, look at that. It's time for this month's patrons. This month we have Lennox, Amanda, Jenny, Jesper, Kim, Lisa, Ryakio, Sabby Panda, Sarah, Savvy, and Scribbling Cat. As usual, you guys, you rock my socks off.